What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we're going to be having a little bit of a look at the weakest creatures in Keyforge. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we had a look recently at the strongest creatures in Keyforge, and that video proved quite popular, one of the most popular on this channel, so I thought, right, let's have a look at the weakest creatures, shall we? Now, this is not an easy list to make, and I'll explain it properly as I go through, but it's not just as easy as going, that's a 1-power creature. It's the weakest. Now, I've had to go into some categories for some. Hopefully, it'll be clear as I go through. But to start off with, I want to go through some creatures which did not make the list. So, Mushroom Man initially looks like it's a fairly weak creature. It's a 2-power, but you get +3 power for each unforged key you have. It starts as an 11-power and never actually goes lower than 5 before you win the game. Briar Grubbling also is a 2-power creature, but it's got the skill Hazardous 5, which means you deal 5 damage before attacking. That doesn't sound very weak to me. Similarly, Piranha Monkeys are 2-power creatures, but when you play or reap, you deal 2 damage to each other creature. You're going to be getting a whole bunch of damage going on here. Silvertooth is a 2-power creature, but Silvertooth enters play ready, which means you can definitely get an attack off, and even if it goes down straight away, that does give it a boost over some of these other weaker creatures. Now, Time Traveler's an interesting one. It's a 2-power creature. It's also one of the few creatures that gets you an Ember when you play it, but you can essentially always shuffle it into your deck and run away. We also see Moon Cursor, which has both Skirmish and Poison, which means that you can attack without being hit back. Skirmish says that when you instigate the fight, on your turn when you start the fight, you don't take any damage in return. And Poison says that if you do any damage whatsoever, you destroy them. So this allows you to destroy any creature that doesn't have armor, while guaranteeing that you survive, just so long as you instigated things. Now, all these creatures we're going to be talking about have skills. Many of them are good creatures. We're not talking about good, we're talking about weak. We're looking at creatures that you can't really use to fight, and if you try just leaving them out there to reap, they are not going to last very long at all. All the ones I've just mentioned are ones that for one reason or another will last a little bit longer or win a couple more fights than you might imagine. So starting off then at number 10, we are going 2-power creatures that have neither elusive nor skirmish. Elusive means that the first time you are attacked, you're dealt no damage, so you have to be attacked twice to be taken down. And skirmish means, as I said, that when you instigate the fight, you do not take any damage in return. They are not the same thing. So what do we have that fit into this category? We've got Replicator, Research Smoko, Snack Lifter, Valiant Analyst, Blipip, Grenade Sib, Dust Imp, Ember Imp, which incidentally is one of the best cards in the entire game, it's just extremely weak, Shuffles, and Hunting Witch. These are 2-power creatures that do not have skirmish or elusive. Many of them have incredibly good skills, but that's not the point of this video. In at number 9, 1-power creatures that do have elusive. So even though they've got less power than the ones we lumped in at number 10, you've got that elusive skill, which means that your opponent has to attack you twice in order to take you down. That makes you, I think, a little bit stronger, and means even though they're not going to be good for fighting, they're going to be fairly decent for reaping, because it's going to take your opponent 2 attacks to take it down. And we have Urchin. Now, Urchin is a fantastic card. It's got elusive, and when you play it, you steal an Ember. Not to mention that you do, of course, also have Fagin here, and when Fagin reaps, you get to put an Urchin into your hand, meaning that you can then play it down next time. It's a nice card, but it's weak. We've got Smiling Roof. Now again, Smiling Roof is not a bad card per se. When you reap, if you forge a key this turn, you can take control of an enemy flank creature. That makes it much stronger because taking control of a flank creature means you can use that to attack, and that could be something like a Khalifi dragon. But the fact of the matter is, it just a little bit weak as a 1 power, and you're not often going to be able to get that skill working. And we've got Phylix the Disintegrator. This is from my beloved Mars house, 1 power creature with elusive, and your opponent loses 1 ember for each other friendly Mars creature as an action. Get a lot of friendly Mars creatures, and it is friendly, not friendly and ready, and this will be very good, but that doesn't stop it being incredibly weak. In at number 8, and we are now down to 1 per category, we've got Shadow Self. Shadow Self is a 9 power, but it deals no damage when fighting, and it is going to take all the damage that would otherwise be directed at your neighbours. If this could attack, it would be great, but it can't. Well, no, that's strictly not true. It can attack, it just deals no damage while attacking, and for that reason, I couldn't not put it on this list. Similarly, Aether Spider. Now, again, I don't think Aether Spider is a bad card, because each ember that would be added to your opponent's pool is captured by Aether Spider instead. Sure, they get it back when they take you down, but you may well delay them forging a key for a turn or two. But the fact is, you're a 7 power creature that can't attack, which makes you even weaker than Shadow Self, so it wasn't hard to put this 1 spot higher, or lower, depending how you look at it, than Shadow Self. In at number 6, Skippy Time Hog. Now, this is a 1 power creature, and when you play it, your opponent cannot use any cards next turn. Now, this was a really interesting one, because on the one hand, it's a 1 power creature with no elusive or anything like that, but on the other hand, your opponent cannot use any cards next turn. They cannot attack with any creatures that are already in play, but they can just use anything like Ammonia Clouds to take you down. They can't use cards, but they can play cards. That gives it a little bit more survivability and makes it a little bit stronger than some other cards on this list, and I still think it's a good card, but unfortunately not quite good enough. In at number 5, Harland Mindlock. It is a 1 power creature. Now, when you play it, you take control of an enemy flank creature until Harland Mindlock leaves play. So again, I bump it up the list because when you're assessing how powerful this creature is, and remember, we are not saying useful, we are saying powerful, they are extremely different questions. Then essentially you've got to consider that you've got this, plus the creature you've taken control of. The reality is, however, that your opponent can just take this out and then get their flank creature back. In at number 4, Inca the Spider. Yeah, we're getting down to the really weak ones now. It is a 1 power. Now, it does have poison. And when you play or reap, you stun a creature. You basically got to reap with Inca the Spider. Incidentally, there's a really nice short story on the Keyforge website about Inca the Spider. Do make sure you check that out. But you're not fighting with it. Reaping, fine. Fighting, no. It does have poison, so when it gets knocked out, it will take something down with it, which essentially stops it being right at the top of this list, but it's still fairly weak. In at number 3, one of the better cards in the game, it is Restringuntus. It is a 1 power creature, and when you play it, you lock your opponent out of a house until Restringuntus leaves play. It is an extremely useful card, but it's a 1 power creature with nothing else going for it in terms of power. You ain't fighting with Restringuntus, and it ain't staying on the field very long. In at number 2, we've got Bad Penny. Now, Bad Penny is a very, very nice card. When it's destroyed, it goes back to your hand. It's a 1 power creature. The thing is, it's just that. So whereas things like Restringuntus lock your opponent out of a house, Skippy Time Hog stops them using cards, Bad Penny just doesn't go away. It remains an extremely weak card. Now, if you happen to pull a deck that has both Seeker Needle and Bad Penny, you have a wonderful, wonderful combo here. Seeker Needle does 1 damage to a creature, yours or your opponent's, and if it destroys that creature, you gain 1 ember. So every turn, or every Shadow's turn, I should say, you put Bad Penny into play, destroy it with Seeker Needle, gain an ember. It is a very good card, but we ain't talking good, we're talking weak. But the weakest card in the entirety of Call of the Archons, the first expansion, is Dust Pixie. Dust Pixie gives you 2 Ember when you play it. But it is a 1 power creature with no skill whatsoever. It's not a bad card, because essentially you want it to be destroyed. You play it down, you get the 2 Ember, and then maybe you're able to play something along the lines of Hysteria, to put it back into your hand to play it on a later turn, and then you get the Ember back. But most of the time you want to play it down, get your Ember, have it destroyed so it goes into your discard, and then your deck runs out and you shuffle your discard back into your deck, and then you're ready to keep rolling and play it again. So those, ladies and gentlemen, are the weakest creatures in Keyforge. It was not an easy list to put together, because I was focusing purely on how good are they at fighting and how long will they stay on the field. It was a much more difficult list to make than the strongest creatures, but I thought I owed it to you guys to show you this list. So I made it. But this is very much the kind of list where you guys may well wish to argue. If so, that's what the comment section is there for. And if you want to make an entirely top 10 list yourself, 1 to 10, I would very much be in favour of that. Go nuts, but please do remember the most important rule as always. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about Keyforge, and we talk about Transformers, and we talk about a whole bunch of other things. But by far the most important thing as always is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.